Good morning. Welcome everybody to this morning's Police and Fire Commission meeting. We've got a full agenda here this morning, so we're going to jump right in. Get a roll call, please.
Gershman?
Yes.
Tinker?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes.
Schutz?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes. Any public comment or correspondence? Steve?
Thanks, Chris. I feel awkward talking to your backs, but here I go. Anyway, many of you know, I think that I've been trying for the last couple of months to schedule a joint meeting between the council and the Fire and Police Commission to review, have a presentation and a discussion on the Fire Training Center study done by SEH. And it's been hard, and I know there's vacations and summer's a busy time, but still trying to get that together. So please watch for the next email from me as we look at options. Maybe one of the ideas is to have it be on the same night as a council meeting, maybe before the regular council meeting. That might help them. I don't know if it helps the Fire and Police Commission, but really like to get a chance to see what SEH came up with and what it means. So please keep an eye out for an email from me soon.
Any other public comment? Okay, moving along, staff updates. We'll start with Police Chief.
Okay, I just got a few staff updates. First is on e-bikes. We've had a lot of conversations regarding e-bikes and the problems that they've been causing in the city. Citizens are concerned, and rightfully so, about the speed that these bikes travel, and with kids on them, it can create a pretty dangerous situation. So there's been a lot of talk about it. I did present at council, last council, and basically the presentation was just to inform citizens of what laws we can enforce. Essentially, e-bikes are considered regular bicycles, and so all the laws that we can enforce with regular bikes, we can enforce with e-bikes. There has been some groups that are looking into possibly adding ordinances. They would work with HAP. I don't know if they reached out with HAP yet, but really at this point, there's no additional ordinances regarding just e-bikes. So I just want to make sure the commission knows where we are in case you're asked questions about the e-bike stuff. We can enforce. There are some speed issues we can enforce. They have to stop at stop signs and those sorts of things. So there is laws we can enforce with them.
Have you cited anyone yet?
I don't know that we've cited anyone yet. I didn't look that up, to be honest with you, but I know that we've had a lot of education out there and with kids that are on bikes and trying to make it as safe as we possibly can. So. But I don't think we've enforced anything yet.
I don't think it's the last that we've heard of this.
No, and we're not alone. There's a lot of communities in the state that are, in the country that are.
They're all using the same graphic too.
Yep. Well, why reinvent the wheel, right? The next update that I'd like to talk about is we've had some concerned citizens that basically there's folks that are living in their cars in the neighborhoods out here, and I absolutely understand why citizens are concerned and feel uneasy about folks that are living in their cars on their street. We're put into a real difficult situation because they really aren't doing anything illegal. And so we have to be conscious about not violating their civil rights because they do have a right to live in their car. And there isn't anything that we have in our ordinances that would prohibit any of that. Citizens are concerned because obviously it makes them feel uneasy at their home. So we're navigating through that as delicately as we possibly can and trying to respect the rights of both of them and to enforce things when we're able to enforce them. We have had, I think, one trespass incident that we were able to prove or actually observe. Other than that, there really hasn't been very many laws that have been broken yet.
How many people are we talking about?
Well, we had one in front of our police department for probably 2 months. There's probably about 5 that I know of that are scattered throughout the city, but I know there could be more. So it's something that we just need to be aware of, and again, I would just ask for a consistency if you folks are asked about it, that we have to respect their rights as well as the rights of the citizens, and we will enforce things when we're able to.
Have you been asked to remove any of these people, say from the library?
We've been asked, not from the library yet. We've been asked, but there's many times we can't have them, we can't make them move. We try to encourage them, we try to explain why people feel uneasy, but they have the right to stay.
Is there a vacancy? No, you can't do anything with So unless they're being disruptive, you know,
Right.
all the things you can't do anything.
Exactly. You know, if they're trespassing, if they're, you know, breaking any of our ordinances, we can enforce, but if they're not, we can't.
Overnight street parking, if they park on the
Yeah,
street.
that's only enforceable during, you know, from November to April.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
do you think this issue is transitory, or do you think it's?
I think there's different, you know, there's a bunch of different reasons. There's the two individuals that we had the most contact with were very separate reasons. They used to live in a certain area, and so they kind of hang out there because they know some people. And they don't want any other assistance. And the one at the police department, I don't know why he was here, but he was here for a long time. So,
You had some interaction with them.
oh yeah. Yep. But he didn't break any laws, so. So anyway, just want to have that on your guys' radar and so you're aware. Next is the PD project. I'm happy to report that we are moving on at a really good pace. We are going out to bid. We hope to have bids back on August 12th, I believe the date is. And I'm very grateful that the council agreed to move forward with a larger garage. It's going to make our building sustainable for a lot longer. So I'm very grateful for the support that council gave us for that. And finally, an update on the detective sergeant process. We started the promotional process. We have the first part done. The last part would be the interview with council and admin. And that has been scheduled for August 18th. So it's moving along nicely.
And how many people do you have?
We have three applicants. Yep. And that's all I have.
We've got a couple different updates. One for the recruit interviews. We did the recruit interviews on June 18th. We had 13 candidates apply and 7 interviewed. We did select a candidate, Adrian Kruger, who has officially passed all of his pre-employment requirements. He'll be starting on July 27th. I plan on bringing him before the board next month, once we get him here at the department, so you'll have an opportunity to meet him. Training Center Master Plan presentation, Steve Barr did a really good job of covering that. We'll try to help out and assist where we can to get the information to you when those dates are, to at least let you know that email is circulating. And then the last one is the fire station alarm system replacement project. Just a quick update on the fire alarm system. The alarm did go before Board of Public Works on July 21st to solicit bids. That was approved. That'll be moving to consent agenda at the Common Council next week. And then we'll be looking at sending it out, and then with the bid opening of August 11th. We'll look at award of a contract at BPW on August 18th. Common Council final approval on August 25th. We'll start work on September 1st, and by November 30th, we'll hopefully have a completion date. And that's for the fire alarm system here at the Marshfield Fire Department. So that was a replacement project that was last year's CMP. Just wanted to keep you in the loop on that. Other than that, those are all the updates that I have for you.
Thank you, Everett. Approval of minutes of the June 11, 2026 regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved. Approval of minutes of the June 18th special meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approval of police department bills.
Thank you. In your packets, there's 2 sets of bills. Both were signed by Commissioner Penker, one on July 1st, the other one on July 15th. There's one item I'd like to bring out. It's actually on the very last page, 7L. There's a bill to Wood County Sheriff's Department for the amount of $1,800, or so, a little bit over $1,800. This was sent because the DA is moving to a paperless filing system, essentially, for when we request charges. We needed to upgrade our records management system in order to accommodate those paperless charges. So all of the departments within the county split that cost, and the $1,800 is just our portion of that one time for the upgrade. I didn't see anything else that really stuck out, but I'd be happy to answer any questions before you accept them.
The GPS tracker, is that a fairly new thing?
No, we've been using that for quite a while, usually for drug cases, when we get warrants to use.
Do they just wear out?
Yeah, they would wear out, and sometimes,
Inaccurate data.
Yeah, they just get broke. Too, so, yeah, so we have to replace it.
Any other questions for the chief? If not, can we get a motion? Randy, okay, second. In a roll call?
Hirschman,
Yes.
Pinker,
Yes.
Schutz,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes. Approval of fire department bills.
There were two sets of bills in your packet this month. The first set was signed by Commissioner Meek on July 1st, and the second set was signed by Commissioner Hanson on July 15th. As I looked through all the bills, everything looked fair and complete to me, but I certainly would be happy to answer any questions or questions they have.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call, please.
Hirschman,
Yes.
Pinker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Schutz,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes. Police department activities, training reports and correspondence.
Okay, in your packets is a list of activities from last month. I think you'll see that we've been pretty active with some training and community events. I am trying to be much more intentional about communicating these events that we're involved in, so you guys have a more accurate picture of what we're up to. I didn't see anything that really stood out that needed more explanation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions before the placement file.
On page 9A, downtown parking issues, what exactly are we talking about?
This has been kind of going back and forth for a long time. There's issues about, should we have the 90-minute parking or should we change the parking requirements? And really what it boils down to is we have the parking restrictions because when the ordinance passed, the businesses wanted us to limit the amount of time that people are parked in front of businesses. And it seems like there's some friction maybe with newer business owners as time goes on, or maybe the business changes that might not work. So we've been having communications about how we should change it. This particular one was actually regarding one of the lots, and a business owner wanted to, didn't think that they should have to buy permits to park in a lot, and so we hashed that out at the city level. So there's been some things that have been popping up that from time to time about parking issues on Main Street and in the lots. So this was just a discussion regarding that.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I know we've talked about this before, but this trend of traffic stops is, we're down a lot, over 20%.
Yep.
And last year was kind of the same story.
Yep.
Year before. And I know your first question I'll relate it to is staffing. I get that too, but I think there's going to be I think there's more of an explanation for it, isn't there? I mean, there has to be.
I think there's probably a lot of factors that come into play in the amount of traffic stops that we have. Our staffing right now is a real issue. We have 2 in training right now. We lost another 1, and 1's leaving. We have another one on FMLA. So we do have a significant impact. I think that's one impact on our traffic stops. I think there's so many different things. I wouldn't even begin to list all of them. It just seems like to me that staffing sticks out in my mind as one of the biggest things.
So the question I have for you.
One more thing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
But also in our calls for service, those are being divided by less people. Our calls for service are actually up a little bit from last year too. So we're dividing that into, by less people. These are only just scratching the surface, and I don't want to have the impression that that's the only cause of what the numbers are. I just think there's so many factors in that it's hard to digest.
I think there is, but I think part of the question I have is, what are we doing to measure that, either on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Because I know you have some high performers in that building, make more traffic stops than others.
Right.
And I think it's a reasonable question to ask, is what is a person doing in the 10, 12 hours?
There's a lot of things that we do that aren't equated to numbers. Some of the investigations that we do require more follow-up. We have to prepare for court. We are at court. We're at training. There's a lot of things that we do that don't equate into numbers. And I'm not going to say that that more traffic stops could happen. I mean, we are human, they have off days, we have, things that are going on too that we deal at an internal level. But we do quarterly evals, and we compare, by law, we can't, make somebody do X amount of traffic stops. That might be something we want done. We can't make them do it. The message that we're giving to our people is that I want them to stop cars when it outweighs what they're doing at that time. So if we can have probable cause and we have the time and the ability to stop the car, I want them to stop the car. We do quarterly evals, and we compare them to department averages, and it goes through progressive discipline essentially. So usually at the coaching level, we can address lower performers, and then almost always they improve. And so we try to handle it that way so it doesn't become consistent. But again, I believe that there's so many factors in what creates our numbers. It's hard for me to narrow down one or two.
No, and I agree with all those points, and I'm not trying to be critical. You look at the data, right? It just, activity looks way down. And I think at some point, and I'm sure you're looking at it, but you maybe need to look at it more often. Because, no one should be surprised that our numbers are down. I mean, it's been 25 months.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and we're not surprised. I think this was something that we were afraid was going to happen. And we are at a first line supervisor level, motivating and keeping our people. We are watching our people.
So are any of your frontline officers on any sort of development plan in terms of increasing the activity or making it?
Not right now, no.
All right, that's all I've got. I think it's good to have, I'm not trying to be critical, it's just, I think it's a reasonable question, activity's been down.
Yeah.
And Jody, on page 9B, going down towards the bottom, basic peer support course. I had the chance last week to bring Father O'Hara, who's the visiting priest at St. John's, over here for a visit. And he was very impressed by the fact that we have a chaplain program. I explained that we have a similar program in peer support over at the police department. Again, he was very impressed by what we're doing to take care of our people. And then the other item that I wanted to address, this is on 9C, the Kramer BKV group meeting. I don't know how many people here have seen the presentations that Kyle Kramer has done on the Common Council. I've been going to those meetings for a long time. And I can say flat out, I have never seen a presenter like him. He does his presentation, and if there's a question, it's rare. He's excellent at what he does, and I'm glad we have him on board.
Yeah, we've been very happy with Kramer Brothers.
Any other discussion? Okay, moving along. Accept the resignation of police officer Alexander Mitchell, effective July 5th.
Okay, this was one that we saw coming, and we're not real happy about it, but Alex submitted his resignation actually back on June 5th. He's been with our department since 2015. He has served in a number of ways. He's an outstanding instructor for us, excelling in firearms, and he was pivotal in our improvement of the RTF program with the fire department. Alex informed us months ago that he intended to move to Florida with his wife. He expressed that Florida is much more conducive to improving his golf game. And although we'll miss Alex's dedication and expertise, we truly do wish him the best in the next chapter of his life, and we're glad that he's able to pursue this goal that he's had for a while. So with that, we ask that you accept his resignation.
Motion, but a reluctant one to accept it.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Gershman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Peak,
Yes.
Schutz,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes. Accept the resignation of police K-9 officer Kelly Blake, effective September 3rd.
This is another one that we didn't want, but Kelly's been with our department since 2018. She also served in several different ways. In addition to being an EVOC instructor, she's an FTO and K-9 handler. Kelly has always been willing to help out with projects, and she has emceed our police memorial events and also our award events. She does an excellent job with that sort of stuff. She also helps us with, she created some brochures for recruiting, and while she teaches, she's one of our biggest assets in recruiting. So we'll miss her in those capacities as well. She's always volunteering for interview panels and is really, really an asset in our recruiting and hiring processes. Kelly's also leaving us for warmer climates. Her and her husband will be bringing their son to New Braunfels, Texas. I've never heard of it, but I heard it's warm. They purchased a home there. Kelly wanted to be transparent with her plans with us, which we really appreciate, and she wanted to make sure that the commission knew that she was leaving well in advance. In the event that we're able to hire a replacement. She said she wanted to have it in writing. She's already bought a house, and so she's not going to change her mind. So I really appreciate her, at least the thought that she wanted to make sure that we could prepare the best we could for her when she leaves. Kelly's departure, like Alex's, isn't good for our department. However, we do appreciate her loyalty and dedication. We wish her the best in her next chapter as well. So with that, I ask that we accept Kelly's resignation.
Motion to motion release.
Second.
And a roll call.
Kirschman.
Yes.
Meek.
Yes.
Schutz.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes. Just one point here. We believe that we had already approved in a previous meeting for the replacement hiring for these. We'll double check that. If not, we'll bring it back an item in the next week. But I thought that was part of an item last month.
I thought it was as well. We are in a process, but we'll make sure we hammer that out before the end of the meeting. So we won't be ready to hire probably before the next meeting anyway.
Okay, update on police department job function test revalidation, presented by Tracy Toffner.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll lead into this. I'll lead into this for you a little bit, Tracy.
Thank you.
Yep. Our department has implemented a job function test since 2019. The test is intended to ensure that our officers can perform the physical aspects of their duties being a police officer in our city. The test needs to be validated periodically to ensure that we stay current with what's happening in our profession and in the environment that we work in. To revalidate the test, we reached out to Tracy Toffner. Tracy is an expert in creating tests like ours and has been pivotal in our test since its inception. We have Tracy here today to help us explain our process. During the revalidation, we also made sure that we followed the advice of HR and our attorneys. Sarah is here today from HR and also HAP. Kyle Gooley is on vacation, but he has assured us that he and HAP are on the same page. And with that, I'll turn this over to Tracy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chief. Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Toffner. I'm the Director of Industrial and Tactical Medicine for Advanced Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. I've been working with the department since 2019, which was the original inception of the job function test, which is used for return to work. It's used for hiring. It's also used for any sort of annual testing that we are doing as well. The test has gone through a very rigorous process over the last couple of years, but I'd like to update you, and I do have a document that I keep track of all the things that we're doing and why we're doing them, and making sure everything's following the letters of the law, especially when it comes to timing, functions, those sort of aspects. We resumed the project in February this last year with the formation of a department committee. Anytime we do these projects, we want to make sure that we have incumbent employees as part of the process. It's very vital to the legalities of these types of tests. In the initial pilot testing, we had 10% of the department partake. And through a couple of different versions, a couple of different I call it trial and errors, because we do look at heart rate. They were heart rate monitors when they're doing it. We want to make sure that we're exceeding or getting individuals up to that right zone. You know, the test is very reflective of the demands of the job and consistent with business necessity. And so we went through 2 or 3 validations over the course, and in May of 2016, or 2026, excuse me, I believe it's in your packet. We have the final version of the test currently with the demands and the reasoning behind it. Now, this test is not completed as of yet. We still need to go through another validation process. We do intend to set a time for the entire duration of the test. In the previous test version, there was a timed component. The committee that was part of it felt it would be more job realistic and increase efficiency of the testing process if we put a time to completion, so start to finish. In order to do that, we need to do a time trial study, which will take place hopefully relatively soon. We're kind of waiting for this meeting. And then once that time trial study is done, we anticipate the entire completion to be validated by November of 2026. And with that, I will take any questions or anything additionally that I need to cover. Okay.
I'll direct this question to Sarah. Now, Tracy said that there was what called cross-disciplinary team or cross-department team that was working on this. Do we have a letter from the Marshfield Professional Police Association commenting on the policy, procedure that was used, and the testing that's going to take place?
I do not have anything myself, no. I don't know if Chief does.
No, this is in, I guess the closest thing we have is it's in contract and in policy that we have the test. So I think that's the best we could do. Then we hire the professional to create the test. So this has been gone through, even through the arbitration. I think it's well known with the union what we do. Does that answer your question, Bill? I guess I'm not sure.
I would just like to see a letter from the union commenting. If they come back and say, we have no comment, we're totally satisfied with what's going on, fine. But I'm just concerned, in spite of the fact that it's in the contract, I'm concerned about the position of the union. And then the second question, direct this to Tracy. I understand that these are functions that we would expect Marshfield police officers to be able to perform, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Were these developed, were these developed specifically for Marshfield, or are these based upon practices that some other departments are using?
This is based specifically on Marshfield and the job site analysis that was conducted.
Okay. So if we actually wanted to cross-reference this, do a study and try to cross-reference this to other departments, they may copy us, but we have not copied them.
That is correct.
Okay.
And nor should we be copying another department. That decreases the validation of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
So Tracy, one of the things that we've gone through that whole process originally when the Fire and Police Commission adopted is have the police officer have the capacity, to be able to do their job, right? And so one of the things that I've noticed is like the run is out, but there's a new, timed, a series of events that you have to complete within a series of time that you're going to have. But how will that measure the capacity for them to physically do their job?
So the entire test is based off of the essential functions of the job. When we design these types of testing, we're looking for the minimal acceptable amount of demands that they need to be able to do. I think we can appreciate that in public safety, especially in law enforcement, there is days where no matter what we do on a test, we will never reach the capacity of some of those days. But what we're trying to capture is the minimum acceptable standard within the department.
Okay, so my question for you, let me just ask what's your plan. Can I ask all these questions? Right? Because we're not developing the test, I just want to ask the question. So they have to climb one set of stairs up and down. But we have buildings in the city that are 4, 5, 6 floors. So one floor is enough, you think, to judge capacity? I'm just asking the question that anybody that looks at the test would say.
Yeah, and
Is that enough? What I'm saying is that enough?
Yeah, and it's closer to 2. So
Okay.
that was absolutely considered in this process. This test redesign is very different from the first time of its initial design. The fact that there's a time to completion now added to it, we had started with lots of stairs, and we found out we were over-testing individuals in their capacity because they need to go from start to finish and be able to hit all the zones. Based upon the research, we know that it is expected in law enforcement for you to uphold about 80 to 90% of your max heart rate over the duration of 120 seconds. During this testing process, with the heart rate monitors on, with the consent of all the officers, we were able to see where we getting to those correct heart rate zones. In the first version, we over-tested everybody. They were way over their max heart rate zone. In the second version, we were way under the max zone. And I always look for about the 80% rule is what we tend to follow. In the third test version, we hit the 80%. Now the intent is when we go to the time to completion study, I will ask as many of the members as I can if they will wear a heart rate monitor during that process, and they may or may not comply with that. It's not a requirement at this point in time since we've already determined we're getting them to that max. I don't see any reason that an officer wouldn't be able to climb 6 flights of stairs based upon this test, because again, it's the whole duration of it. Currently, right now, this test is taking about 4 to 4.5 minutes for an individual to complete. Whether or not that's the actual time, but the time study will tell us, we'll know more.
No, and that all sounds reasonable. When you did the previous testing, how many people had to retest? And let's just go back the last 24 months when you tested.
In the last 24 months, we have not had anybody that's had to retest. But the first year we rolled this out, we had 4 individuals that were unable to complete all the functions safely.
Good.
And that's on these criteria, that 4 were unable to complete?
No, that's the original
Previous
test
test,
back in
okay.
2019.
Would you, in your opinion, would you say this test is, the proposed test is equally as hard or maybe harder in some cases because of the actual sequence and the timing of it? Do you think it measures the same thing? That's what I'm saying.
So the answer to that question is always difficult because it's based upon the group that's participating in it. Based upon my observation, you have created a better test than you had previously because it now mimics the essential functions in a way that really, really represents the job. In hearing the responses from the people that went through in our 10% and just, again, over the years since we did start this in 2023, we did a little bit heavier process right before we were put on pause. The consistent message that I hear is this feels more like my job. And I think the aspect of the older version where we had them running on a treadmill was certainly there for convenience, weather, all those sort of things. Running on a treadmill is very different than running on a floor surface. And so being able to challenge that capacity a little bit different is something that I'm most excited about with this new test version.
You know, I agree with you. It's a lot easier to run on a treadmill than it is to run on a hard surface, for sure, right? Probably a lot easier. You know, I look forward to seeing how it works. You know, I think the big thing is, you know, in the time portion of it, you really should measure something. I just, you know, I don't want you to make it so it's so easy that everybody passes all the time, like they're not serious about their own fitness. And that's a personal responsibility on them. But we also want them to have the capacity to be able to do the job and respond and protect.
Understandable.
That's true.
Yeah, understandable.
Okay.
Again, I think time will tell. One of the most interesting things about this department for me, since being here since its inception in 2016 when we first started, and really we first started, 2019 is when we ran the first testing process, is the culture in the department has completely changed. It's now a known expectation from the day that they're hired that fitness is important. And so even in the pass-fail numbers and the difficulty of the testing, we're not seeing as much of that anymore because people are training up to the standard versus being on the back end of it. I think that's something that this department is really leading the way in comparison to other agencies that are looking to implement testing like this. I use Marshfield as a reference several times, as long as Chief Karen continues to answer my emails, because I do think you are doing something pretty extraordinary compared to other agencies across the country.
Yeah, a lot of people were critical of the process before, Tracy. You experienced a lot of that. I mean, certainly, I'm just really, I have a lot of confidence in your ability, especially what you've done for the department, the city, and I know the chief does too. And so, thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
If we have somebody that falls outside of the standards, what type of remediation program is there?
Yeah, currently right now, we have a 3-month remediation, and Chief could probably comment a little bit further on the deepness of the policy. But that was the original intent of it, is to give them 3 months to train up, work with the on-site physical therapy and strength coach that we currently have to get them up to the training standard. In previous versions where individuals have been unable to complete, most have been able to successfully train up within that amount of time.
Most of the time, when they're not able to complete, it's due to a medical issue. So we have them fix that medical issue, make sure the doctor signs off on that, and then work with Tracy and our on-site to get a plan to get them back on.
I have one question for Sarah. There was a comment in the past, post-job function test, that some people were actually injured, or you said workman's comp, were there any workman's comp claims, people trying to get rid of there was? Can you talk about that a little bit?
So I would say that that is one. I would say that it's probably slightly decreased a little bit, but it basically essentially was when the job function test was coming up. We did have officers training and working out and doing various things, and then they were injured in that process, and due to it being during work hours, so that did incur a work comp issue. But I know that the on-site is helping coordinate different programming and different things like that. So we are seeing, I would say, a slight reduction. We want to continue to see that to decrease. Obviously, we don't want anyone getting hurt. But I think, as Tracy mentioned, I think with the change in culture, and I mean, I can definitely see it, I think there's so much more of an emphasis on both the police department and the fire department to just remain physically fit, that I think in years to come, we'll continue to see any issues kind of reduce. But I will say, I mean, with anything, when you are in a position where you're cramming for something, you may see more injuries, but I definitely would say I think that is reducing.
That's a factor. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fire department activities, training, and correspondence.
Overall, it was a busy month with meetings, training, public outreach, and calls for service. As I looked through the activity report this last month, I really have to say, just take a minute and just talk about our staff. Our staff does an excellent job of taking care of all these things, and they continue to reach deep each day. There's times when we've got ambulances going everywhere, we've got fire engines at the same time rolling, and yet every single time they seem to find the right reason and make sure they get the resources where they need to go. So kudos to all of our shift commanders, all the staff there, and again, all the firefighters at the bottom. They continue to do a great job with this. We give them new functions all the time, public outreach. There's a lot of the public outreach programs that come in. They continue to have a smile on their face, and they continue to do all the right things. So again, I think that comes back to culture and how good they're doing. But again, overall, it seemed like this last month was fairly routine. It was another routine month for us. And nothing stood out in any further explanation, but I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
I have a question on 13B on the 9th, stepping on class that you held in the training room. What is stepping on class?
Stepping on class is one of our senior living programs. Basically what that does is we're actually working with the EDRC. EDRC comes in and facilitates this, but we also have firefighter paramedic Jenna Conrad. She helps to facilitate that as well. What it really is designed to do is keep people at home longer. We know that falls are the #1 cause of people not being able to stay home. Once they get into a nursing home, basically it starts to come apart and a tax on the system, because now they're in the nursing home and they're in a long-term living, and they don't get a chance to go home. So what we're trying to do in that capacity is make sure that, we're getting rugs out of the home. That's where you saw mugs for rugs. Last year, that was one of our programs. That came from another department down in La Crosse. We've been also trying to work with this program where basically they come in, and this is an exercise program. They tell a lot of staff how to assist with things, how to sit a little bit better, some of the common things they can do at home to make sure they're not going to fall. So overall, again, this is our community risk reduction program. And if we can stop one fall, that's going to help us, again, with not having to have an EMS call and going there all the time for that person, because they can do some things at home that are real easy and be able to take care of things at home.
How is this being publicized to the public that they know that the fire department is working with the community on this?
We have been utilizing Facebook in some capacity. ADRC also does some of the publication. It is publicized over at the Senior Living Center, or the community center on 2nd Street. So I know it's there. We've got a couple other places that we're doing it, but could we do a better job of making sure that we publish this? Absolutely. So we're always trying to find new ways and innovative ways to make sure we're doing that.
You know if it's on our public TV station?
I don't. That's something we could certainly reach out to Tom and have a conversation, see if we're getting that on there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll work on that one. That's a good one. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question on 13A on the 3rd. The Canadian National Railway hazmat, is that with Canadian National personnel specifically and their policies and what they're looking for, is working directly with them?
That is correct. Actually, by federal law, they have to have a community outreach program. So what we've done is we've been able to utilize that outreach program. They come in and deliver training, and it's free of cost for us. They were able to bring a couple different things. One thing that they do have is a large rail car that they can park on the spur track down there. We can utilize that. This time they were able to bring one of their trailers over, and they went through the most common valves that would be on a tank car, how we can secure those quickly, and we can stop a spill from becoming larger than what it really is. We also went through some of the parts where we can use turnout gear, because there's probably 90% of the hazmat calls out there, we can use turnout gear to get up there. It's only about 10% that we have to put the full encapsulated suit on. That's that big plastic suit that you saw in ET back in the day. That's exactly what those suits are. Just making sure we keep encapsulated to do that. So this was a nice opportunity to utilize the free training, bring them in, work with all 3 shifts, and do it in an on-duty capacity. I'm always trying to reduce some of that cost of the overtime budget so that we don't have to bring people in an overtime. And they're really good to work with for those 3 days. So, and they did an excellent job.
Yeah, that's really neat that you can do it live on a car and see the equipment and what they got to deal with in case if something happens. That's neat. Thank you.
Is the UTV being used now? I see a lot of training aids.
Yeah, we are going to plan on utilizing it. We will be utilizing it at Hub City Days. So it is in capacity. I think we have there's a couple of little things that we need to work out. Got a couple of electrical gremlins. One happens to be in the lighting system on it, the light that's up on top. For whatever reason, it came from the factory. Something wasn't working the way it was supposed to. So that's all under warranty. They're trying to get a couple of those items fixed. You'll probably see in the next month and probably next month's report, we're actually going to get everybody certified to UTV training just to make sure, just a good refresher for those that maybe don't have to take the certification. And then for everybody else that possibly would have to have that certification by the state of Wisconsin, that's by the DNR. So we'll be doing that just to make sure everybody's safe on that machine. But we really foresee this being a good one for Hub City Days, Maple Fall Fest, especially because of the tight quarters down there, and then also the Central Wisconsin State Fair. So those are the big ones that we're going to utilize those. One thing that we did see recently was up in Canada. In Canada and Minnesota, we've obviously seen a lot of smoke in our area, but that's all coming from up there. And that is a concern that's always there, is the wildfire. Right now, we're kind of in a little bit of a drought condition. Hopefully we'll get some rain here in the next couple of weeks, get things not less dry, I guess. But those are things that we're always concerned about, so it can certainly be used in capacity along with the assignment. So we are trying to utilize it as much as possible. We're getting staff out driving it. to make sure they understand how to use it. So fairly straightforward, but at the same time, unless you use it, it's got a little bit different tip points and things like that. So
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
I just want to return to the visit Father O'Hara made. He greatly appreciated the time that Deputy Chief Nyland spent with him to take him around. And just some high points in his comments back. As we were leaving, Jenna Conrad was out in the hallway, so he got to talk to her for quite a while. He was really impressed that we offered the STEP program. You can imagine in his particular occupation, he sees a lot of people wind up injured and wind up in the nursing home. He was very pleased with that. Very impressed with what Lieutenant McNamara is doing with the TEMS program. Deputy Chief took him into one of the ambulances, showed him everything that we've got there. Again, totally impressed. He did know about the Lucas device, but he got to see it right there in front of him. He saw the UTV up at the parish pole, and here he actually got to touch it. Again, he was very impressed with that and very impressed with the foresight of the department in getting one of those. And the other thing, sort of the kid in the candy shop, he was just overwhelmed by the amount of equipment we have. And he said, this is big. I didn't realize this was that big. Overwhelmed by the size. And before we left, he did bless the department and the manpower from the parking lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, we enjoy those tours, and if you have people that want to come in and do a tour with us, by all means, send them. But if you want to come with us, we're happy to do what we do, we love what we do, and we're happy to show people exactly how things work here and answer questions wherever possible. So please bring them in.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, request to approve the Tactical Emergency Medical Services Program.
I can leave this one out. This item follows the tactical EMS presentation provided at our previous meeting. Since then, staff has worked with our law enforcement partners, city administration, and city attorney to address the commission's questions and finalize the program. The tactical EMS program strengthens firefighter and law enforcement safety by providing trained medical personnel who can operate in a tactical environment and deliver life-saving care sooner when conditions allow. The program establishes the operational framework for tactical EMS, including training, medical oversight, and coordination with the police department. We are requesting approval so the program can move forward with implementation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that might have been left over. In addition, I did bring Lieutenant McNamara in case we have any follow-up.
I had a chance to go through the change of words that we had asked for at the last meeting. That was done. I'm pleased with that. And I believe Randy's question about self-defense and firearms was adequately answered. And a lot of thanks to Lieutenant for all the work he's done with this.
Really great job.
Thank you.
So I move to approve the policy and the agreement.
I think this one,
It's two separate items. We need to approve the program first and then the.
Okay, move to approve the program.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Gershman?
Yes.
Bicker?
Yes.
Peak?
Yes.
Schutz?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes. Review and approval of Fire Department Procedure 510 410.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Gershman?
Yes.
Bicker?
Yes.
Peak?
Yes.
Schutz?
Yes.
Yes. Request to approve the Thames MOA draft upon completion of legal review.
I can take this one out too. This item requests consideration of tactical EMS memorandum of agreement following completion of the city attorney's legal review. The legal review determined that a formal MOA is not legally required because both departments operate in the city of Marshfield and the program could be administered through department policy. That said, an MOA is considered a best practice and is commonly used to document the roles, responsibility, authority, and expectations between the fire and police department. It provides a clear framework for command relationship, training, medical oversight, activation procedures, and ongoing administration of the program. Staff does believe that either approach is legally acceptable, However, we recommend moving forward with the MOA as an added layer of clarity and documentation. Ultimately, this policy is the decision of the commission, and we are seeking your direction. We're blessed to have Hap here today. If you have any questions about the MOA or anything that I can answer for you, I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Any questions or discussion on the MOA? If not, we need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
And a roll call?
Gershman?
Yes.
Bicker?
Yes.
Peak?
Yes.
Schutz?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes. Okay, we got a little bit of a shift in the agenda here because we have some items that are budget related. So we're gonna do those first before we do the budget. So we're gonna go to 18, 19, and 20, and we'll do 17 after 20. Consideration and recommendation to authorize solicitation of competitive bids for the live fire training structure replacement project.
Okay, this is gonna be more of a project that's actually gonna be open a little bit more when we do the SEH study, when that's presented. There's a little bit of information that's kind of falling off from that. To give you kind of a little bit of an additive on that, when we look at the training center facility and the structure itself, they basically have said it's meant as an end of life scenario. So working with Mid-State Technical College, I've had the ability to start to have those discussions on what we're gonna do to navigate that. Right now, we cannot do a live burn in that building. We can use it for search and rescue primarily, but a live burn is out of the question on that building, especially when that study is published. That literally tells us that it can no longer be utilized. With that being said, what we're trying to do is look at just a single structure. This can be done in a cargo container, and almost like a Lego concept, a Lego building block concept, bringing in one structure where we could build on it later. So minimally getting this so it can be that first step in the overall process, bringing in additional ones later on so that we can build that training center facility to be a 3-story structure if need be. That's what the ISO basically calls for. They want to see a 3-story structure or facility to do live burns in, to make sure that we can facilitate all the training that we need to do. So this would give us that first ability to start looking at that and have that functional capability to move forward in the future. The things that we're looking in that bid are to make sure that it's movable in case it needs to be moved on the site, or if we look at different decisions in the future. It has the ability to have that function. We want to have limited framework of infrastructure costs in that area so that we're not putting a whole bunch of money into one spot just to build that up. We want to try to have it where it's placed in a location where it can be utilized, and then again, future placement once we get everything figured out for the training center facility. So again, this is trying to look at utilizing taxpayer dollars in a manner that can be flexible and yet still meet the mission of what we're looking to do over the next few years. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I guess overall, this is a building project, it's a public works project. It needs to go through the Board of Public Works after it gets done here, and then on to Common Council just for the bid process. Once we open it up for the bid process, I was just able to work with Josh Moritz the other day, Public Works Director, to put together the final bid documents. That was, I believe, 2 days ago. So I don't really have everything fully published yet, but those documents will be ready to go for the Board of Public Works. And I guess what I'd be asking for, because of the operational capability of the commission and the oversight of operations, I'd be asking for permission to move forward with this process. I guess at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So we're looking at basically purchasing a system.
Correct.
Okay, so so when we're looking at this live fire training structure project, so that the public fully understands, we're not going to be constructing this ourselves.
Correct. This will be manufactured by the manufacturer and then delivered on site. Some setup, they have to basically call out everything that would need to be infrastructure on our side that we need to do so that we can go ahead and look for bids on those parts too.
When you talk about movable, can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Sure. When it comes to cargo containers, you have the ability to basically either pick them up with a forklift, or you have the ability to pick them up with a crane. They also have trucks that can come out and push them onto that. So it has the ability to move it around the site if it needs to be, or if we find that there's a different location, that would be something that can be moved to too. So it's giving us that ability not to be locked into one thing, and it allows us to be flexible in the overall system as we build it.
Multiple locations.
Correct.
So does it just sit on a concrete base or just on the ground itself?
Some have piers. There's a whole different variety. Like each one of the companies has a little bit different variation in it, but they have to be able to provide that information so that we can make decisions based off from that. Some set them on piers. Some can set them on a flexible pad that they can put down. So it basically is putting weight over distributed over a large area so it doesn't sink. Some are actually asking for a concrete pad underneath it. I mean, so there's a few different things that we would have to look at.
So it really depends on how the bids come back and what program.
Correct. And we think we've written the spec. We basically looked at a few different ones. We wrote the spec so that it's universal and it has the ability to take all of that in.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Gershman,
Yes.
Baker.
Yeah.
Meek.
Yes.
Schutz.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes. Thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Consideration, possible approval to conduct a study with McGrath Human Resources Group for Deputy Chief of Emergency Medical Services, Deputy Chief of Prevention, and Deputy Chief of Training assignments for the Fire Department.
Over the past year, we've been evaluating our organizational structure as part of the department's strategic plan. This is one of our strategic initiatives that was placed in that plan. One of the objectives identified through this process is ensuring our organizational structure and compensation system accurately reflect the responsibilities assigned to our leadership team. Today's request is simply the next step by asking the Commission to authorize a formal compensation study through Human Resources and McGrath Consulting. This will be an independent evaluation of these assignments through the city's established process. The proposed Deputy Chief of Training assignment is also included for future planning purposes only. It does not create the position, and the Deputy Chief of Shift Command is not part of this request. Once the study is complete, I'll return to the Commission with the results and any recommendations they may have. I respectfully request approval of the recommendation as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions or any questions the Commission may have.
Sarah, what kind of timeline do you look at?
So typically with approval and then the request out to McGrath Human Resources, it's typically anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks before we get some information back. But it really truly depends on how much in-house data that they have readily available.
I think we've compiled enough data. We've gone through studies in the past. We've got a bunch of data that way. And in addition, we've also worked on some of the job description information. These job descriptions are already in our policy manual. Those have been approved by you. We're going to basically simply ask for those to be looked at. Again, looking at overall, all of the duties that are assigned to the daytime positions. And in this point, again, not asking for the training assignment, but just starting to do that study. As long as we're looking at those would be in the same pay comp over time, but this would be something they can actually evaluate in a fair manner to make sure they're evaluating all of it as a package.
Yeah, and you've just discussed this multiple times with us already. So have a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Gershman,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Meek.
Yes.
Schutz.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes. Okay. Now we will move on to review and approval of proposed 2027 law enforcement department budget.
The fun part. Okay. First, I guess part of the budget I wanted to bring up is the CIP. There's a slight change with the addition of the larger garage that we would basically forego one squad car in the 27 budget, which is about 70,000, 75,000, somewhere around that. And that would help to offset a little bit of the cost of the additional garage. So there would be a slight change in the CIP schedule, but I think it's a really good short-term investment for a long-term goal. So I'm not sure how you want to go through the budget, but last year I know Chris, you preferred us to at least highlight the the increases. There's going to be probably a pretty lengthy discussion on the Axon stuff and some options there, so it's very confusing, so Travis is going to help digest that a little bit. But overall, we have a 5.7% increase, which is slightly higher than what we've had in the past. However, most of that is due to our operating with Axon and Thames, and I'll go through that in just a little bit.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
Before we get into that, we do have the entire budget. I request that we take the Axon contract out for a separate discussion item.
Sure.
There have been some occurrences across the country recently regarding drone use.
Okay.
And I believe this whole section is worthy of additional discussion. And some of that discussion may actually impact City Hall and their policies.
Okay.
Do you want a motion on that?
Yes, please.
I move that the Axon contract renewal be removed for separate discussion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
All right. First of all, the top side of the budget, the personnel stuff, you might notice there's only like a 1.7% increase on personnel costs. I did question actually on that. It was confusing to me, especially with 5% raise on non-union and 3% raises for union in a contract year. But essentially, and Jordan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially because we've lost personnel at the top of the pay scale and replacing them with personnel at a lower pay scale, plus the duration of time that it takes to replace these has affected that percentage of increase essentially. So the 1.7 is correct. So I just wanted to point that out because it was confusing to me. Jordan, did I hit that? Pretty close? Yeah. All right, thank you. So getting into the side where we have a little bit more control over, I guess, is the first increase that I noticed was in number 5210, which is professional services. There's 12% increase in that. That's a rather small budget, so the 12% doesn't really equate to a whole bunch of money. But really what it is that we added the grooming costs for Reggie, our therapy dog, and we want him looking pretty. So there was an increase there. Yeah. So there was an increase there, but I thought that's explainable. The next one was a 6.7 increase in heating and gas. That's just increase in cost. Then in 5290, other contractual services, there's an increase there, mostly due to our record costs. So we've learned that if we recover a stolen vehicle, we used to actually have the owner cover the cost to tow that vehicle. By statute, that's actually on us. So we've added some money in there in case we have to recover a vehicle or pick up some tow bills. Again, it's a rather small budget, but it looks like a larger increase at 19%. 10% increase in office supplies. We've been getting hammered with postage stuff. So our postage and shipping has gone up a little bit. We also we need to upgrade some furniture and things, especially with moving to the new building. We thought we could probably pick up some of that through this operating budget to replace some of the desks that are in need of it, and chairs. Skipping down to 5320, our publication subscriptions, that went up 12.3%. Most of that is due to the Lexipol grant portion of it. We think that that grant, if we can just get one grant, it's going to pay for that increase. So we thought that it would be a worthwhile usage of our Lexipol subscription, but it did result in a little bit of an increase. The operating supplies we'll talk about a little bit, but there's a 42% increase there. I know we can talk about the Axon next, but I do also want to say the Thames.
7,000.
Yep, the Thames is really expensive. But again, I think that's something that we all see as a need, and so that has added into this budget. Fuel costs is a crapshoot, a 12% increase. We don't know where that's going to end up. And then finally, we had special awards of 33%, but we just added some more money so that we can cover the costs of our awards banquets, and that also we have if we have any special trainings or special guests that come in for presentations, we use that money for that. That essentially covers all of the increases that we've had in our budget. I know that it's a high level look, but I'd be certainly happy to address any questions before we move forward.
Most of the core items were flat, really overall, just
Yeah.
operationally with the Thames.
Yep.
$800 to groom the dog.
Yeah, Reggie.
And then health insurance costs provided by the city was up.
That was quite a bit.
But it was a little surprising that the gross salaries drew down, but replacing
Yeah.
lower cost.
Yeah, and so I mean, in reality, I was expecting our increase to be more than 5%. We really did focus. Our team is focused on really providing the best service that we can for our citizens, but also being fiscally responsible. And I think that we did hit that.
The thing, ballistic helmets, do they age out like a motorcycle helmet, or is it?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they usually come with a 10-year warranty.
Yeah, because I noticed that EpiPen, 6,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's a new initiative.
That's a new one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really hopeful that we can get some grant money for some of these things at some point.
It'll be interesting to see if we can cover that through Lexipol, get a grant for EpiPens. But what I've seen in the past, and I don't know if it's consistent today, but a lot of times there's grants available for new initiatives, but not really available for carrying on things. So, but we're going to look into it and see what we can find.
And the training, overall, I'm glad to see that. Just continue to invest in people as a training budget. That's all I got.
Go to page 4, please. Just a question about salaries. How competitive are we, say, within a 100-mile radius?
We're definitely in the ballpark. I don't think we're ever going to be the highest paid, but we're not the lowest either. And what we're in a contract year this year, and what we're looking at is the total packages with benefits. So we're pretty comparative. I just got a wage survey for the chief salaries in it's like the northern half of Wisconsin, and we're real competitive with the size of city that we have. So I think we're there.
Then would you go over to page 8, please? At the very top, we have temporary employees. We have park patrol, and I assume it's a transport person. Do any of the other departments in the area use a similar system with non-certified officers doing these?
I know that WASA has like a CSO program that they do. Wood County has a reserve programs that are, actually those are sworn, but they're a part-time or maybe even volunteer. So I guess I don't know if I answered your question or not, but yeah, just the park patrol is really the only ones in that stuff.
And that's really not new. That's true.
No, and well, during COVID, we didn't have it. And,
The reason I was looking at what the person is being paid, and I know it's an industrial setting, it's a unionized setting, but I mean, to start, Land Lakes $26 an hour. So that's why I was asking whether this is a comparable figure.
yeah, so that's in actually Sarah can probably help with this one. Those are with our temporary employees, and the city has several, from lifeguards to summer help with Parks and Rec, and so these recently we've put these in line with those folks.
Okay.
So.
With the staffing issues that we have, what kind of impact is that going to have on overtime?
It'll increase overtime, but generally speaking, it doesn't. The overtime costs don't overweigh what it'll cost to have the employee there. So we should see in the bottom line a little bit of a savings probably.
Page 13, you've got our room testing on-site therapy. I assume, knowing that our department is right now wellness and physical fitness centered in a sense. Just as an estimate, what sort of return on investment are we getting on this? In other words, because we're doing this, how much of our workers' comp costs been reduced?
I don't know that I'm prepared to do the workers' comp because, well, that'd be Sarah's thing, but on operationally, what this has allowed us to do is keep our employees on site when they need to get physical therapy. So it's literally they come off the road, they go into the office, and then they go back on the road. That saves us a whole bunch of time and staffing. And the benefit is when they do have an injury, they're given exercises that they can get better faster. So operationally, it's paid dividends.
Okay.
I can comment a little too. One of the things when I met with Health and Motion that they did mention is that since the inception of, their programming and things like that, what they've been able to do is move away slightly from as much, dealing with maybe, injuries and trauma and things like that, and into more physical fitness programming and different stretching things because of the success that they've had with helping, do some of those assessments and things like that in-house. One of the things that I just recently, experienced with the program is that we had an individual who was injured, and typically they would have gone, into either the doctor or things like that. They were able to avoid all of that and just go directly in there and, receive immediate, treatment and it was successful.
Does that affect our insurance costs?
Their stuff does not, no. Yep.
It saves the employee money on deductible.
Employee,
So that's a win for the employee.
I believe so.
Absolutely.
Well, it's really a win-win.
And as mentioned earlier, I think with having the job function test, the ability, if somebody does not pass that, the ability for them to get on-site help and training to make sure that they can is pretty beneficial.
Then if you go over to page 19. New officer initial purchase, so this is the uniform, associated equipment, vest, and so on. Handgun, I assume we're still with the Glock platform? Okay. And just total curiosity, miscellaneous jail supplies. Now, at zero, are we well stocked or are we closing the holding cell?
The miscellaneous jail supplies, we have some meals, we have some water, there's some blankets, extra clothes.
Okay.
We're stocked well enough until we move to the new facility.
Yeah, and
A holding.
then we can take everything St. Benny's or whatever, so.
Okay.
And those meals are still frozen meals.
Yeah,
They're
from when
just
you were
TV
there.
dinners, and they're probably the same ones since you've been there. Nick took his with him.
Now, Chris, how would you like to do this? A motion to approve less the Axon contract?
Yeah, because it's a separate thing.
I move to approve the police department budget less the Axon contract.
Second.
Roll call?
Gershman,
Yes.
Pinker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Schutz,
Yes.
Chance.
Yes. Okay, so now we will do a review of the Axon plan and contract.
I guess, I don't know, Commissioner Pinker, if you want to maybe start with your concerns and we can pivot from there, or should you want us to go through, because there's quite a bit of information to go through all the different platforms there.
Okay, I'll go through the concerns first. Apparently, members of the public are aware of this particular item. I spent an hour and a half last night answering questions which I couldn't answer. Plus, I'm aware of several situations nationwide, Axon contracts or activities associated with contracts that may already be in place have come into play. People concerned about the ultimate use of the devices. In this case, we're talking what I'll call generically traffic cameras. People concerned about how they are going to be used. There are at least 2 locations where city councils have referenced these systems not as an adjunct to the police, but as surveillance. And they question whether or not there was sufficient surveillance standards in place. Durham, North Carolina, as one example, they are following more or less the community control over police surveillance guidelines from the ACLU.
Is that with, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm confused. Is it with flock cameras or with drones?
The whole thing.
Okay.
The state of Ohio recently modified statutes, carefully define how drones will be used, operational, how they are used for circumstances versus warrants. Just this past week, Minneapolis City Council, that's a slightly different situation. They had an Axon contract that came up, turned down on a 6-6 vote. But looking at the political situation there were people concerned that this was spying on the public, and also that the manufacturer supplies to the U.S. government, and about 24 of our allies, including Israel, that kind of blew that thing up. But there was concern about how this was actually going to be used. I will say in the Minneapolis situation, the mayor was in favor of the program, which was good. But then again, Minneapolis, their staff is so far down, they do need extra assistance. Those are some of the issues that came up. A question arose whether Wisconsin has a state statute regarding drones. Continuing. Do we have within our policies established parameters? Now, in acquiring things, now we're operating in a somewhat different perspective because we have a full power commission against some locales that control the police department via the city council. But a question arose, do we have a citywide drone and AI policy? Because drones could be used by other agencies. Street department could use them, Marshfield utilities could use them. So
We would have our pilots fly them if we use them for a different.
So that would fall into, for instance, a drone AI policy. Do we have one out of City Hall? And if there's one out of City Hall, does that affect the police department, or do we develop our own? Those were some of the questions that came up and some of the questions from the cities.
I think they're valid, and Travis, we can probably take him on this one a little bit. I think that a lot of the concern is coming from the flock camera debates. I think that that has gone sideways for that company, and that's the reason why we don't have flock cameras in the city right now. The county does have them, but we haven't bought them in the city because we didn't agree with what flock was doing with the data. We did talk with Axon. They have a similar program,
Outpost and light post.
Anyway, the short story is that Axon allows us to control who we share data with. Flock really doesn't. They say either you share data or you don't, and then they control who shares it. And that's where that information is going outside. Axon has much better control, and we can share with local law enforcement agencies, which doesn't breach that driver expectation of privacy.
Okay, so in other words, we have the key, Axon doesn't.
And we control who we share with.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons why we thought this would be a lot better way to go. We get a lot more of the benefits, and we're not disseminating that information outside of law enforcement. With the drones, we have a drone program now. We have drone pilots.
How much do we spend on the drone program?
Right now, our large drone is, gosh,
Pretty minimal.
it's old. We bought the last drone I bought, I think was like $1,200 on Amazon, and that's the smaller drones. Those are outstanding for us. In addition to like the social media things that we put on with drone coverage, we use it quite a bit for that. But we can take those drones and fly it into a residence instead of sending our SWAT team in, and we can have all of that info remotely. That in itself has it absolutely paid for itself. We've got a few of those drones. Our large drone is very outdated, and it's obsolete, honestly. That drone, it has the capability of infrared, so we could, if we have a suicidal subject on the railroad tracks, we can fly it very quickly and notify Canadian National a lot quicker if they can keep moving. If we're missing a child, we can use it for those sorts of things too. So when it was working better, that was a real good tool. Like any technology, to keep up with it is very difficult. And so for us to purchase a new drone, the larger drone, we would have to have a CIP. And then if it crashes, just to get the parts in could be difficult depending on which one we buy. I don't know how much a new drone would be. When we tried to get pricing on it, the market was so unstable that we couldn't get an accurate price by the time we would have CIP approved. So it almost takes a year to go through that process, obviously. So it's very difficult to keep up with that kind of the technology. We don't use our drones for surveillance, at least we haven't. It's something that we use as a tool for covering ground very quickly. We can create a perimeter very quickly and search with a drone a lot more safely. There's just a lot of assets that a lot of things that we can do with a drone that we can't do from the ground.
So give me some, so you're looking at about $2.1 million over 10 years. I mean,
It's a lot.
I mean, the money is huge. I mean, but you really haven't laid out really any alternatives. I mean, in terms of lower cost, I mean, let's just say we stay with the body cameras and do our own drone program. Mm-hmm. I mean, part of it is, when I look at that, I'm like, where's the payback? Mm-hmm. And I don't see where we'll be able, we're even going to be able to measure the payback.
Right.
And how many cameras are you talking about? You're talking about 200 cameras?
No. We would do the same basically the same thing as we would with the FLOT. We were going to start with, I think we had 4 budgeted.
4 is included in the Axon contract. Yeah. I might have forgot to put the actual number of outposts in there. Apologize for that.
With the Axon, we picked the 10-year because it locks us into a little steadier pricing predictions for 10 years. I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen Axon offer a 10-year, and I am scared about what happens in 10 years. What is the difference? Because we're looking we're at the end of a 5-year now, and we're looking at a pretty hefty increase. So I don't know if that multiplies after 10 years, but for a decade, we'd be able to have a predictable increase.
So let me ask you a question. Let's say it doesn't work and you want to get out after 36 months.
What doesn't? The
Axon. Are you able to get out of the contract? I don't think.
The best, generally we can. I know we've had no problem adding. They're very good with that. But the only thing I can say is that everything that we've done with Axon, and I hate writing that check every year. Believe me, I hate it. But the problem is that they're such a good company. We've had our in-car cameras. When we had issues with them, they flew people in to take care of it for us. We've had body cameras. whenever we had issues, and remember we had a watch guard and they just didn't work. And it was like pulling teeth. With these folks, we've got a rep that we call. We talked with Trevor several times, and he connects us with people. We get the updates on tasers. So like when there's new technologies on tasers, they upgraded us to Taser 7, and that's part of that package. With the drones, what they do is every 2 years, you get a new drone. With the small drones, they ship 2 right away. They turn 1 on, but they say you're gonna break 1. And so as soon as we break 1, if a bad guy swats it when we send it into a house or we run it into a wall, we call Axon, they turn the other one on, and we send the other one in to get fixed. The large drones, they give us a new drone every 2 years, and we keep the old one. So, I mean, there's those sorts of things you don't get with other companies.
What I'm saying is, I think when you look at it, it's just like, is there no other number other than the 210,000 a year you come up with? I mean, that's what I'm asking.
I hear you, I really do.
I mean, that is,
But the problem is that when we looked for other numbers, they weren't able to give us one that they could predict accurately.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Let's say you just do buy cameras and the cameras are in the squads.
That's where we can go, Travis can talk through the bundles.
So how much is that, Travis?
Oh, that's a really difficult question to answer because every time Axon bundles everything, the prices of all the individual products change. So it's really hard to get we talked to them quite a bit about that, trying to guess. So I can't really answer that exact question.
But we have looked at taking things out of the bundle. Like we looked at the storage and.
Yeah, well, we did look at a third party for digital evidence storage, and we thought we might be able to save a decent chunk of money on. The problem with it was, by the time we actually looked at it, it didn't end up presenting enough cost savings that we could go to another platform and lose the efficiencies that we're having just pushing everything from a Axon product right to their platform.
Because
so it would have been like $6,000 or something, so it was pretty minimal. And the other problem is nobody else makes a taser. I mean, so we're sort of with them for that reason. And like Jody said, with the tasers, the body cameras, and the fleet cameras, and they have been, the products themselves and the customer service is the best. I mean, they've just been so good and so reliable. So with all the digital evidence storage going directly from their products to that platform, it's an efficiency, and you call them on the phone and they'll fix it right away over the phone a lot of times. I mean, there's just, I don't know another company that can offer all of it is the problem.
I mean, I think that, there's no question they're best of breed. I mean, I do. I think the product is excellent. It's just, when you're looking at committing the city to over $2 million, and
that doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't develop something within a decade.
I completely agree with you. The problem, I mean, I think I went to Taser instructor school in like 2004, and the trajectory has just gone up the last 2 decades with them, and so it's a gamble. I mean, is there going to be new technology? There could be.
And you have to ask yourself, do we need all this, right? So you've had flock cameras in the budget for 2 years, you never implemented it, you weren't even sure where you were going to put the camera.
We didn't know where we were going to put them, but you're right. We were cautious about moving forward with the flock. The first year we didn't buy them because we got sideswiped with redaction software that we had to make a choice.
I remember that too.
Yeah, and then this last year with everything happening publicly, we decided to pull the reins back a little bit, and we looked for other options, which led us to this.
I mean, when you look at the package, especially with the cameras, I mean, it is like this as it screams surveillance. I mean, it does,
And that's where I had to be convinced by Axon too that this was different than what we've been dealing with Flock, and it is a different platform. It's not a surveillance; it's a tool.
Ultimately, City Council makes this decision.
You're right.
But I don't want to send something forward where I'm not being sensitive to what people are paying in property taxes, and we got a new PD station, and costs are going up everywhere. I mean, what I'd like to see is a slimmed down proposal, maybe without the drone program and maybe bundle the taser with.
Yep. So when we presented the budget, we decided to pick the highest cost one. It's the one that we do feel is the best one, but in my mind, when we brought this forward, I wanted to bring the highest cost, and then I wanted you folks to decide to trim down from there. So that's why it's written the way that it is.
And I think that's great, but we still don't have the number, right?
Nope, and that's what Travis is gonna prepare. And
So I think you need to bring it back. I mean, I'm not ready.
we have it. We have the
Well, I know.
bundles.
Are you talking just the number to stay status quo? Is
The
that what
number
you're
to stay status quo, which would be taser, body
We
camera.
got that.
fleet cameras? That's in here, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't think that's what you were asking last time. It's at,
124.
so it will increase, if we stay status quo and go with a 5-year renewal, it will increase by $46,687.
Which is more palatable. And it's not that, I think sometimes everything's a great idea when you're not paying for it.
No,
right?
I completely understand.
And I'm just, I don't know if I've seen enough to say that, yeah, all this would make absolute sense. It would add to officer productivity, make it safer. I'm like, I don't know if you made it.
Understood.
Okay.
I think the biggest selling point for us with the drones is just the idea that we're gonna get updated technology on that every few years instead of having to go through CIP and borrow the money every few years to update that larger drone, and then to have the insurance policy on the smaller ones as well, knowing that we have broken them, they likely would get broken, so we were just looking at that as potentially the better way to go with the drone program itself. But yeah, it comes as part of a bundle is the problem. So.
Right, I mean, it's great to say you have capacity for all these things, but you need to pay for it. Go ahead. That's right.
Just have a comment on the drone program. The drone, I know we talked with the police department on a couple different occasions about possibly utilization of the drone. The things that we could utilize it for here at the Marshfield Fire Department are 360s of buildings. So if you get a large capacity campus that's got a fully involved fire in it, let's say you've got 606 South Walnut, or you've got, I'm just trying to think of a few, Masonite, which isn't Masonite anymore, it's what, Forte? So that one's changed a little bit. It would give us a 360 purview of that, so we could utilize it at that capacity. In addition, we also use it for Project Lifesaver. So Project Lifesaver is going out, and if that's got the capability of like seeing bodies, and if you have a warm body in a cold environment, you can really pick that out very easily. I think we've utilized that on 2 or 3 different ones, and that's been the one that actually has helped us to find those people. So that's been an avenue where we've been able to do that. And then, we are starting to see wildfires start to increase too. Canada's getting wildfires now. That really wasn't something that was in the past. So we are in a different climate than we were before. So this would give us the opportunity to get up and actually get eyes on it ahead of time to see where we need to go with our strategy. But those would be things that the fire department could utilize it for. I understand it's mostly coming out of their budget, but I just wanted to weigh in a little bit on some of the things that could be there. We have talked about possibly having drone people over here that could actually operate those drones too, so that if we get a fire incident, the police department could operate that drone. And if we get a police incident and they need someone, the fire personnel could actually operate that drone and help out and assist back and forth. But again, I understand the cost. I mean, it's a big substantial ask, and possibly things in the future, maybe it's something for the future, but it is something that could be utilized in multiple departments. But I wanted to weigh in on that piece of it, just some stuff that could be used.
Jody, do you think you could put together a comprehensive presentation on why the 210 makes sense? I mean, based on current conditions in the city, there's wants, there's needs, and there's must-haves, right? So I think some of these turned out to be wants, maybe, depending on how you present it,
So like, we looked at, we actually taking out the outposts or whichever outposts or light posts, I get them confused, the cameras. We looked at taking those out, and it didn't affect the price at all. We said, well, it's the bundle. And so it's like pulling teeth, honest to God.
Yeah.
And so we did look at separating a lot of those out. We would, because of the vast differences in prices and bundles that we had, I honestly wanted to come forward and just get your input. We're ready to pivot and go whichever direction that you want to go. I don't want to have the impression that this is the absolute, the one that I can say is a lot better than any other of these other 3 bundles that are here, okay? What I'm saying is that this one gives us the most. This does give us the most tools. As far as our department, we have the most tools in this one, and it locks our pricing in for 10 years, which selfishly I looked at that, well, for 10 years, we don't have to deal with this because it's hard to do it.
But you're really paying it up front, right? I mean, let's be honest, right?
Oh, they're getting their money.
I mean,
And it's not like there's not gonna be an increase every year for the next 10 years. That's baked into this, okay? So, I mean, I get it. But I can give it, I don't think I think that everybody knows that these could be a benefit to the police department, these different things, but that doesn't mean that it's the best for our department. I'm relying on you folks to give us the direction of where you wanna see us to go. And so that's why I was gonna have Travis break down these differences, but I'm getting the feel that we wanna stick with the status quo for the time.
Well, I'm not so sure. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay.
I'm looking around the room, I probably would look at more common council meetings than anybody that's here. So I look at the present common council. Got 10 people, and in my mind, I have got pictures of people who are going to look at $204,000, and they are going to say, no way. I'm looking at that 10 people, or 9 right now, who are going to say, oh, wait a second. We've got privacy concerns about this. And they're going to argue privacy concerns. We're going to have somebody that's on the council, yep, we need this puppy, let's go for it. There's got to be a mid-ground, and whatever we take to the council, it has to be defendable. Defensible, I guess the correct term. So let us say, as an example, we say go ahead with the 10-year renewal status quo. The department has to be able to defend that against all attacks. And are you prepared to do that?
Yes.
And it's really not status quo though. It's a huge increase in terms of capability. I mean,
Well, status quo in terms of material.
yeah, right.
The other thing, and let's say that we approve this, and mayor's here. I think part of that approval would be, or even a second motion, a recommendation to enter into conversation with City Hall regarding the establishment of a citywide AI program. Because this fits in basically into the same category. It's going to be on the fringes of the AI situation.
Or privacy for sure.
Yeah, for privacy concerns, AI implications.
You know, I think from a commission standpoint, there's a couple ways to look at this. I think you could say, okay, you know, based on the information we have today, which is good, is, you know, do you throw up the 200 plus thousand, the city council, and let the PD stand on their own to defend the position? You know, that's one thought. Or the more conservative decision would be go with existing bare minimums that the chief feels that, you know.
I think that, you know, and I hear you completely. In my opinion, the tools that are in, whether it's a 5-year or 10-year and that more expensive plan, the tools that are there will make our jobs easier. There's no doubt about it. But I just want it to be known that I can justify whatever decision this body makes, because it's a balance of safety and money, really. It's budget and safety. That's what law enforcement always is. And if, yeah, we might agree that all of this would make our lives easier, but we don't have the money for it at this time, I think that that's a valid argument as well. So I'm prepared to go in whatever direction that you guys choose to go.
One thing that needs to be noted, and I've noted this in some of the updates I've given, more and more departments are using drones as first responders.
Yeah.
They get to the scene faster, they can do the 360, which becomes very definitely an officer safety issue. At this point, and that obviously is an advantage to us. At this point,
The drones, and Bill, not to interrupt, but the drones in this package would not be manless drones, these would be manned.
right?
Oh,
Yeah. So at this point, I guess there are several alternatives. We could look at a particular package that's presented. We can come back the next meeting. Quite frankly, what is the time limit on getting a budget into
when do you need that?
city? Yeah, when
Jordan,
Jordan?
Sorry, so, the initial budgets are done or due after next week. So I believe it's August 3rd.
Okay, so that would make a special meeting a little bit tight to deal with.
Not to council, but to like the city administrative position. We're not presenting to council until later in August and September.
So we'd have a little time.
Yeah, is this something that, we have the budget minus this and we can bring this to you, like?
Yeah, we do updates regularly throughout August.
Okay, because my position is I don't want to send anything to the council regarding the budget that the department and this body can't defend together. Because ultimately, if we just say, well, just throw the tenure out there and let the council decide it, we're not doing our job.
Yeah, so just wanted to provide the date that we propose the budget, and want no adjustments by is Monday, October 5th. That's the date that I don't want to have any adjustments by because I have to prepare the packets and materials. So.
I think if we could get a better breakdown and a presentation and we can come together at the next meeting and figure it out. And then we can hammer down something that we all agree with, that we can hand to the council and say, this is what we think as a whole is the best.
So, Steve, go ahead.
Could there be alternative costs listing drones that we buy on our own, independent of this?
Yeah,
Not only of that, but
breakdown.
let's say we replace them every 3 years or every 4 years or whatever, breakdown that you could do.
Yeah, we can do our best when we tried to, but like I said before, when we tried to get that, nobody would commit to a cost.
Okay. Well, an initial then.
We'll do our best to get some.
The larger view is, we got so much going on with the building right now, and if those numbers come in substantially higher than what budget, I mean, in terms of public perception of PD, this fall could be a very, very difficult time.
Timing is awesome, right?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I agree.
I think a selling point to the public maybe on this is really driving home the safety issues and responsiveness of having the drone, not only for the PD, but for the fire department. Their use in, let's say, a school building, hospital, whatever location, it can enter that safely. It's not a living, breathing item. Let's say if there's smoke, I don't know if you would send someone in smoke, or even if it would be something that could be recorded, because it might be hard to see through the video. Or finding a lost child or an elderly person or whatever. I mean, we've had instances where people have wandered off and ended up dying in the winter. And if we could get a drone on location or in the area, at least we have, maybe minutes or hours saving somebody.
Okay, I think, go ahead.
Quick question. With the current drone, how long have we had that for?
Large drone, we've had a decade.
How many times has it broke or got damaged or replaced?
A couple times, but primarily now it's just the thermal imager and the camera and the batteries. To replace all of those, to update it for flight time.
So I guess that would be something to look at, is the cost if we're just buying it outright. And the history that we have with ours, instead of, paying for this for 10 years, that hypothetical, it could break, or getting that breakdown of that cost.
They're not that expensive anymore, the bigger, more ones with the infrared, and be able to launch it from the roof. Batman, you know.
And those weren't the ones that were in this.
No, I know they were. I was joking.
Maybe, they're awesome, but no, yeah.
Chris, I'd like to make a move that we consider the drone program at the August meeting.
The whole Axon contract.
Right, the Axon contract at the August meeting.
I don't know if I'm completely clear what you want to see exactly. Do you want to see a drone program independent of Axon? I think I'm hearing that. And then do we want to look at getting some costs from Axon without the outposts included? And maybe there's no palette for outpost or any type of ALPR camera from this body at all.
I would like to see that not included, just because I don't know, publicly we made the case that we actually need it, you know? No, I know they're gonna give you a difficult time in the bundling part of it, but just, you know, be just as direct as you can, you know?
Yeah, we have been. We have a pretty candid relationship with our representatives, so we're asking him to sharpen his pencil quite frequently.
One final question before we go to the motion. Where are the devices made?
At Axon, I don't know. Good question. I guess we didn't ask where they're made.
The drones?
Yeah.
The drones are, from what I know, made in the United States because they have their Skydio drones is the name brand, excuse me. They are the ones who are, there's grants out there for those potentially. There's government contracts for Skydio drones. That's one of the problems, just to be really transparent on the inability to get a really good cost on a large drone has been because of all the issues surrounding DJI.
Yeah.
We've traditionally had DJI drones. Our first large drone that we still have came through a donation from the Altman family. They donated a bunch of money for a drone program for us to get started. The DJI world has been so volatile, we're kind of unable to get a really solid price on replacement of that. So that's where we were struggling.
Right. During their policy was very specific that I believe this is the one where they specified that the equipment must be produced in the United States. Or that may have been the state of Ohio. The equipment was manufactured with a known adversary or listed terrorist supporting that the purchase was prohibited. That's where that was made. I don't think there would be anything that's been made in China for the electronic.
Yeah, I don't.
And the FAA's listed, just recently listed, named vendors that are not. That's all.
Did we have a second to your motion, Bill?
I'll second it.
We need a roll call. Or just, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll revisit it next month. I think that was a good idea to separate the two. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, review and approval of proposed 2027 fire and rescue department budget.
Just a quick question. We still have item 20. Would you like me to?
Did I skip it? No, we did that, didn't we?
No, we covered 19 and, I'm sorry, 18.
Oh, I'm sorry, I must have skipped it.
Okay. Would you like me to cover that one prior or go right into the department budget and then come back to that?
Let's do the budget first, because I know Randy's got to get out of here, so.
Sounds good. Looking at the budget, basically before we get started, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been a big part of the support. Deputy Chief Backus, Deputy Chief Brian Barnes, and then Lori Panzer has been a big part of this budget building. Again, this is something that we really appreciate your overview on. And I want to shout out to the finance department. They've done a lot of really great work up there. And there's one point that when we get to the end of the enterprise fund, we'll definitely point that tooth out. They really made this a really good part. I want to just kind of go high level. The overall increase is about 5.6%. But most of that is just isn't because we're adding programs or expanding services. The majority of wages, benefits, insurance, and utilities, things we don't have much control over. If you were to look at that, that's about 90% of the overall budget. Actually, personnel alone is 90%, and I think it's right around 94 to 96% is going to take over the utilities. If we were to look at it, personnel, there's increase in wages, WRS contributions, Social Security, health insurance, dental insurance, and life insurance. If you look at all those are a big combination of that piece of it. Last year, just to remember too, we did finalize our contract with Local 1021, and some of those personnel costs are up there, along with the increase in administrative wage packages as well. For the fitness and wellness initiative, strategic plan number 5, Fit to Respond. If you look at it, that's going to be 51,970, I believe is the one that'll be in there. Basically, that is our on-site health, and that'll be the top part of the fire protection budget. You can find that on page 15. The 51,920, that's all one kind of area. We have the firefighter medical evaluations. Those are the NFPA 1582 physicals, and we've been more consistent on those. One thing we did find is having an outside preferred vendor come in. That's been more helpful than trying to send them to the clinic at this point. The clinic has been very hard and problematic to get that done. We don't get billing cycles in a point where we need to. So having them here where they can take care of it on a daily basis, meaning they come in, they work with the shift, and they do all of their NFPA 1582 physical items during that time, that takes care of that portion of it. We did see a slight increase in that one. In my budget specifically, the 1,500, but that will affect all 3 budgets. The other 2 budgets are a little bit less. The reason for that effect is we've got the base personnel in the fire protection budget, and the other budgets have less personnel. So that's why you see just a slight increase. When it comes to the annual fitness testing on-site therapy, what we did is we looked at the utilization. We've seen a slight utilization downtick, meaning we only need them here certain days. So we were able to have a little bit of an savings in that area. We allocated that over to the NFPA 1582 physicals. I think what that tells you is that we are seeing definitely that program is working the way it's intended to do. We're not seeing the long-term injuries over a period of time. When I first started here at the department, we had a lot of long-term injuries, meaning they were going out under the WRS or they were going out under a disability. We haven't seen that since having this program come on and allocate. Again, we've also got a better culture in physical fitness area, and we're doing as much as we possibly can. Like I would probably echo what the police department talked about. They're basically getting an opportunity to go see somebody on site, get that physical remedy, and take care of that piece. So you'll see that in all 3 budgets. Maintenance, we had no new contracts. The increase in maintenance contracts were for HVAC, fire alarm, apparatus bay door controller replacement, and again, that affects all 3 budgets. For contracts, we had no new contracts. We increased in all simulcast. We had an increase in our simulcast radio contract. That's between the police department and the fire department. Both budgets are affected by that, and that gets absorbed by all 3 budgets of the fire department. Postage, we just saw a slight increase in all 3 budgets, 1.2%. Publication, subscription, and dues, we had nothing new, just a slight increase in dues overall. For training, the big thing you saw in the fire protection budget for training is we actually separated out the overtime. That's been a long-term project to really look at that and see what's happening over the time. Overtime was baked into some of those formulas, and really the overtime belongs at the top of the budget. So if you were to look at the top of the budget, the overtime for employees, you'll see 7,720, and down in that one, you'll see a decrease of 7,720. That basically got allocated to that budget to make sure that we're covering for that. But really just having the training needs that we have on a daily basis on what we're paying for, making sure that's all there. In the prevention budget, we did see an addition of the WSFI Spring Conference, and that's a required training that we do each year for our inspectors. We basically send them there. It's a 1-day conference over in Eau Claire. It's a little bit easier and a good way to get people over just to a close one. We're not paying over hotel costs and things like that. For all 3 budgets, we did see shift commander's office desk. That does look a little bit higher, but what we did is we took the project in here where we replaced all the chairs, and we reallocated that money to starting to replace some of the furniture on the first floor. One was the shift commander's desk. That one is a little bit higher, but the reason why is we actually went with a metal desk that's going to be a longer sustainable desk. The one that we currently have in there is falling apart. We had the drawer fall off the other day. We've got some other doors you can't even open and close on it. We want to make sure we got something that's more sustainable for the future. The other thing that we're adding this year, or asking for, is an organizational chart and personnel display. This will better display what our personnel are and show the organizational chart of the department where personnel align. A lot of times when we get tours or we get people coming in, they ask questions about that. This will give us a really good demonstration of what those parts are. The other thing is a basement health exam room. Basically, right now we've kind of got her in a closet that was actually intended to be a place where we store tables and other things, and it doesn't have, you can hear communication through that. This is really HIPAA privacy stuff. People shouldn't be able to walk by and hear what someone's saying. So we're actually intending to move that down into the basement room, create a nice HIPAA privacy room, and then have the ability where they can actually come out and do the training. Any physical training or physical training needs that they would have. We have a large gym down there that they can actually utilize for that with free weights. So it's a little bit better placement than overall part. High level transfer to CIP. We had some items that we moved over to the CIP. The SCV cylinder replacement, we moved that over. That turned out to be roughly over, I want to say if we replace every one of them, it's about a $400,000. What we're asking for is about $46,000 a year in that one. And again, we'd be replacing a total of 40 SCBs and 80 bottles. What we did move is, you did see down in the operational part, we moved about $9,000 over to that piece to allow us to go ahead and put that capacity. So we removed it from there and put it in the CIP. This year we're looking at an AFG grant cycle. Again, they opened up the 2026 AFG grant. We're going to go ahead and apply for that. We're going to be able to utilize those funds, and hopefully we can do this all in one shot. It'd be about $40,000 to replace all the SCBs if we're able to get that through a grant. The rest would all be provided by the federal government. The last thing I really wanted to point out was the EMS Enterprise Fund, and this is where Jordan comes in specifically. Jordan has done an excellent job of overseeing that EMS fund, has done a great job in that area. If you look at the budget, it looks wonky because it says it's got a 195% increase to the positive, which it has. We've actually gotten $500,000 worth of grants that have come in. That's all due to Deputy Chief Bakas working hard on the backside to make sure that we're getting that. Also working in conjunction with Jordan to make sure that we're getting every dime we possibly can from the federal and state government, and the money has started to filter its way in. So we've got about $500,000 that came in that particular area, which has really given us some health in that budget. Right now, that budget sits at about $1.9 million. About 5 years ago, we were right around negative $600,000. I think that really shows a dramatic increase, or when it's looked at properly, and we're really getting the funds that we need. I think that really shows the health of that program. So again, that's operating very well. I would certainly turn this over. Yeah.
Add into the budget the cost of a fire department T-shirt. He deserves.
Absolutely. He deserves probably 2 or 3, maybe even 5. So I think that's a minimum. I think one of these things, I just wanted to kind of really leave you with that piece. That finance has been doing an excellent job in that area, really trying to get that capacity and make sure that budget is healthy. And again, Steve has had a lot of work in that area too to make sure that that's all coming together, writing grants, making sure that information's right. And that's really a process that works between those two. He keeps me abreast of all the information, but I'll tell you the meat and potatoes that come from his office, and he does an excellent job in that area. I would definitely turn it over to Steve if he's got any items that he'd like to point out in the EMS Enterprise Fund.
Yeah, happy to answer any questions you guys have. Actually, the one thing I do want to point out, I noticed that I made an error when I entered into the spreadsheet. On page 70, at the bottom of the page, it's actually the first item underneath the 53,330 is the EMT basic and paramedic refresher item. That is not an increase of 8,000. That is training above the 8,000. Apparently, I did not include it in that first column, so it's a 0 increase right there.
I think the degree of detail on the budget is really good when you put that interrogatory in there and explanations of the change. I mean, especially as many items that the fire department has that need to operate with. I think that's really good. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I got one question here. The bay door controllers, how many have we done and how many we got left to go?
Well, we replaced the first one last year. We just got done replacing one last week, and we've only got 12 more to go. So I don't think in my lifetime, or at least in the span of my career, that I'll see all of those replaced, but it's a manageable way. Right now, when we take a controller down, one of the old controllers, we make sure we utilize that by resalvaging any parts we can out of the other controllers. Problem was the brain of the actual controller went bad, and that's why we needed to start the replacement policy. So probably in this next cycle, you'll probably see a couple of bills coming in because we're going to be replacing some eyes and things like that. One thing that we have is we have the road construction project in 2028 where they'll be closing all of 4th Street down. So we need to be able to access from the back and make sure we have that. So I want to make sure all those doors are utilized correctly. But yeah, it's a long-term project and we'll be moving forward.
And they're not cheap.
No, they're not. I think if we ever build another station or if there's ever something in the future, I would advocate for probably roll-up doors. I just checked on the price of those. They're about $27,000 versus $75,000. So
It's all the aesthetics. Right?
they're beautiful doors. They're beautiful. Up until something happens.
Especially when they work. Right?
Correct. I mean, they do a great job. They close. They're quick. I'm sure they do have a cost savings in heat over time, but I don't know that that cost savings is necessarily there for the future. So I would advocate for something different in the future.
We have a motion.
Seconded.
And a roll call.
Hirschman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Schutz,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
I apologize, I have to leave.
Yeah, no problem, Randy. Okay, we will go back to the one that I skipped, item 20. Consideration and possible approval of an increase to the 2027 Fire Rescue Department by the Chief of Emergency Medical Services, Deputy Chief of Prevention, and Deputy Chief of Training Assignments.
I'd like to just point out one thing in that bullet or in the overall thing that's my fault. We want to take Deputy Chief of Training Assignment off from that. That'll be something for future. We're just basically doing a base study on that. So it wouldn't be part of this. It would be just for Deputy Chief of EMS and Deputy Chief of Fire Prevention in the 2027 budget. Basically, this request is for the 2027 budget placeholder related to the Deputy Chief compensation study. HR will be coordinating the study through McGrath Consulting. The study will evaluate the Deputy Chief of EMS, Deputy Chief of Fire Prevention, and may include some part of it, but that would be at future discretion when it comes to the Deputy Chief of Training. The study will not be completed before the 27,000 budget is finalized. In the event that it does get finalized, we can certainly bring that information forward at the August meeting. I would speculate that's going to take a little bit longer than that to get that taken care of with all the stuff that needs to go into it. Including a placeholder now allows the city to plan ahead and avoid a budget amendment later if the study supports an adjustment. Again, that study needs to come back and say that there should be an adjustment. Any future recommendations will come back through the normal review and approval process after study is complete. My recommendation is approve a $15,000 base part that wasn't part of the previous budget, just for that as basically a ticket in the event that we need to utilize it in the future. So that would be what my recommendation would be. And it would be just a placeholder, so.
Move to approve the recommendation, Chief.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Baker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Schutz,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes. Fire service and law enforcement news updates.
I did not prepare any because I knew this meeting was going to go long.
Appreciate that. Items for future meetings. We have the Axon contract.
Axon and make sure that we have permission to hire vacancies, and Travis had one.
Recently, Lexipol, our policy vendor, has released some new policies, and then we have to make some fairly significant updates to some of the existing policies. We're just wondering from this body if you would want to handle it in a similar way that you have with the fire department and assign one commissioner to go through that initial review with us and then bring them to the meeting, or how you'd like us to go about that to get approval for updated and new policies moving forward.
Good idea.
You were more than capable than me.
I would be more than willing to do it too.
One of the new policies is generative AI.
Is what about AI?
Generative
One thing for the fire department, a couple items, I know you guys presentation you'd like to see, put together. And then one other last item would be our physical fitness, basically putting the overall presentation to you and looking for approval or at least guidance.
Anything else?
It's already a full meeting.
Right?
We've been trying to be cognizant of that, overrun too many things on the item and trying to pace them all, so.
Cindy will be
Okay.
here next month.
Okay. Sounds good. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.